My name is Flora. I am 54 years old, and my greatest pride in this life is my daughter Amelia. She is 27, with a kindness that lights up a room, and the calling of a wonderful elementary school teacher. So when she married David Kensington, a charming young man from what I understood was a very well-established family, I was happy for her. A little nervous, sure, about the differences in our worlds, but David seemed to adore her. That was last spring. This December they invited us, or rather, they commanded our presence, for the full Christmas week at their lake house in Vermont. Amelia was thrilled. "Mom," she said, her face glowing with hope, "this is the chance for them to really know me." A family Christmas. I remember the weight of her words and the strange cold little feeling that settled in my stomach right beside my joy for her. Before I share what happened in that house by the lake, I want to ask you listening. Where are you joining me from today? What city or state are you watching from? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have ever had that quiet nagging feeling that something just is not right in a loved one's relationship, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe. Because sometimes a mother's intuition is the earliest warning signal there is. The drive to Vermont was beautiful, all snowy pines and sharp, clean air. But as we turned down the long, meticulously plowed driveway, the house that came into view stole my breath in a way that felt chilly, not awestruck. It was less a home and more an architect's rendering of a perfect rustic retreat from a luxury magazine. Every timber was precisely placed. Every window a vast dark pane reflecting the grey sky. There were no crooked shutters, no messy, cheerful wreath, just a severe, symmetrical elegance. Amelia squeezed my hand. "It looks like a museum," she whispered, and I squeezed back. The greeting at the door was just as precisely measured. David's father, Gerald, was a tall man who seemed carved from the same oak as his ceiling beams. His handshake was brief, his eyes scanning us with a cool, assessing glance that lingered on Amelia's simple wool coat. His wife, Beatrice, was all muted cashmere and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Flora, Amelia, so lovely. You could join our little tradition," she said, her voice like poured honey. But it was sticky, not sweet. Then there was Trent, David's older brother. He clapped David on the back a little too hard. "So this is the school teacher," he boomed, his gaze sliding over Amelia in a way that made me want to step in front of her. The subtle cuts began before dinner. Amelia, trying to help, started setting the massive dining table. Beatrice drifted over. "Oh, my dear, we placed the dessert fork here," she said, rearranging the silver with a delicate dismissive flick of her wrist. At the meal, Gerald held forth on market fluctuations, barely pausing, when Amelia tried to share a sweet story about her students' holiday play. Trent kept calling her Little Miss Teacher until the nickname hung in the air, sour and diminishing. David just smiled nervously, patting Amelia's knee under the table. "That's just Trent," he murmured later. "And Dad's big on tradition. Don't take it personally." But you could see her light dimming. The vibrant, talkative woman I drove up with became quieter, smaller, folding into herself on the oversized leather sofa. That first night, as we got ready for bed in the lavish guest room, she stood at the window, looking out at the inky black lake. "I feel like a Christmas ornament that got put on the wrong tree, Mom," she said, her voice so soft it was almost lost in the silence of the room. I felt a coil of protective anger tighten in my chest, but I told her and myself to give it time. Maybe it was just first-day awkwardness. I was wrong. The second day dawned even colder. Over a breakfast of artfully arranged fruit and pastries that tasted like air, Gerald cleared his throat. "Amelia," he began as if opening a board meeting. "Now that you're part of the family, we've been thinking. That teaching job of yours. It's quite time-consuming, isn't it? And frankly a bit public." He took a sip of coffee. "David's position requires a certain profile. Beatrice heads several charitable foundations. We thought you might step into a more suitable role there. A quiet behind-the-scenes coordination. It would look better. The room went still. Amelia put down her fork. She looked at David, who was intently studying his napkin. Then she looked back at Gerald, her voice polite but firm. "Thank you for thinking of me, Gerald. But I love my job. My students need me. It's not just a job to me, it's who I am." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Beatrice's smile became icy. "Of course, dear," she said. "We only want what's best." The words hung in the air, a clear verdict that she did not know what was best for herself. The tension simmered all day, an unspoken frost, thicker than the one on the windows. That evening, after a silent, excruciating dinner, Trent declared he needed air. "Come on, everyone, let's go look at the stars. It's breathtaking out by the dock." It was a command, not a suggestion. We bundled up, the bitter cold biting through our layers as we trudged across the manicured lawn to the long wooden dock that jutted out into the black water. The lake was partially frozen at the edges, a thin, brittle skin of ice clinging to the pilings. The stars were indeed fierce and bright in the frozen sky, but the mood was not. Trent had been drinking, and his boisterousness had an edge. He zeroed in on Amelia, who was standing close to me, shivering. "What's the matter? Little Miss Teacher can't handle a little chill. Bet your city kids wouldn't last a minute out here." He laughed, a harsh sound. Amelia gave a tight smile. "It's very cold, Trent. Cold builds character," he slurred, stepping closer. "Here, prove you're a sport. Go touch the water. Just lean over and give it a tap." He pointed to the dark, icy water lapping against the dock. "No, thank you," Amelia said, her voice firmer. I moved slightly closer to her. David, standing with his parents, said nothing. Gerald watched with detached interest. Beatrice had a faint, amused curl to her lip, as if watching a slightly unsophisticated play. Trent's face hardened, the joking mask slipping. "Oh, don't be so delicate!" He stepped forward, and in one swift, brutal motion, he didn't guide or playfully shove. He put both hands on Amelia's shoulders and gave a hard, deliberate push towards the dock's edge. "Watch your step," he jeered. The world snapped into slow motion. Amelia's arms windmilled, a gasp ripped from her throat. Her boots, perfect for a city sidewalk, had no traction on the frost-slicked wood. She skidded, balance gone, and toppled over the side with a sickening loud splash that shattered the night's quiet. The sound of that splash was the most horrifying thing I have ever heard. My daughter disappeared into the inky blackness, and for a second there was just the violent churn of water where she fell. Then the sounds began. A choked, gurgling cry. The frantic, weak slapping of hands against the surface. She was in water over her head near the dock, and the sheer shocking cold of it was paralyzing. "Help!" She managed the words strangled and full of terror. "I can't. It's so cold." I took a step to run, but my own feet were frozen blocks. What happened next in the span of maybe 5 seconds is etched into my soul with acid. Trent threw his head back and laughed, a loud, genuine, roaring laugh. "Look at her! She looks like a wet cat." Beatrice let out a little gasp, but it wasn't fear, it was disdain. "Oh, for heaven's sake!" she said, her voice sharp with annoyance. "What a clumsy display." Gerald just shook his head, muttering, "Utterly ridiculous." And David, my son-in-law, the man who vowed to cherish her. He stood frozen for a 3 count, then let out a forced, nervous chuckle. "Come on, Amy," he called out, his voice strained. "You're okay, just stand up. It's not deep there." That was the moment. The moment his words, their laughter, became a different kind of cold one that entered my bones and ignited something white-hot and silent within me. I didn't scream. I didn't look at them. I just moved. I ran down the dock, ignoring the slick wood, and without a second thought, I stepped off the edge into the shallow, freezing water by the pilings. It soaked my boots and my pants up to the knees, the cold a shocking, painful burn. I reached out, grabbed Amelia's flailing arm, and hauled with a strength I didn't know I had. She was heavy, her winter coat waterlogged, but I pulled her to me, then pushed and half-dragged her back onto the dock. She collapsed, shuddering violently, her teeth chattering so hard I thought they'd break. Her lips were already tinged with blue. I whirled around, water dripping from my clothes. My voice came out low and steady, vibrating with a fury so intense it was calm. "Get blankets, now, and call an ambulance." Beatrice's lips thinned. "Flora, really? Don't be so dramatic. It was a bit of fun that went sideways. The girl needs to learn to take a joke, and to be less clumsy." Amelia was crying in my arms now, but they weren't tears from the cold. They were silent, wrenching sobs of utter betrayal. She looked past me at David, at his family, and what I saw in her eyes extinguished any last ember of hope for these people. I helped Amelia to her feet. She leaned on me, shaking uncontrollably. I looked at David. "We're leaving." He blinked, stepping forward. "What? Don't be silly. Let's just get her inside and warmed up. You're overreacting." "We," I said, enunciating each word with glacial clarity, "are leaving now." I turned my back on all of them, on their stunned, contemptuous faces, and supported my daughter as we walked away from that beautiful, terrible house, leaving a trail of freezing water and shattered illusions on the perfect flagstone path. The 2-hour drive home was made in a silence broken only by Amelia's shivers and the roar of the car heater on full blast. I had wrapped her in the emergency blanket from my trunk and my own coat. She stared out the window, blank in shock, deeper than any physical chill could cause. Once home, I ran a hot bath, made sweet milky tea, and tucked her into her old bed under a mountain of quilts. She let me care for her like a child, her eyes hollow. The phone rang. "David." I took it into the kitchen. "Flora, listen." He started, his voice a mix of impatience and pleading. "I'm sorry, okay? Trent had too much to drink. You know how he is. It was a stupid prank. Amelia shouldn't have been standing so close to the edge. But come on storming off. You're making this a way bigger deal than it is. Mum and Dad are disappointed. Just come back, apologize for the scene, and we can have a nice Christmas." I didn't yell. I felt eerily quiet inside. "David," I said, "your brother assaulted my daughter. Your parents mocked her while she was in freezing water. And you did nothing. There is no coming back. Do not call here again." I ended the call and blocked his number on my phone and on Amelia's. I stood in my quiet kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound. The anger was still there, but it had solidified into a cold, hard purpose. This was not over. They had hurt my child. Laughed at her pain and thought their money and status made it a joke. I needed something they would understand. Not shouting, not pleading. Something they feared. I went to the hall closet and pulled down an old cardboard box of memorabilia. I dug past photo albums and old report cards until my fingers found it. A simple cream-colored business card, the edges worn soft. It read, "Nathaniel Rhodes-esque," and a cell phone number. Nate, my half-brother. We shared a father, but little else. He was 12 years younger, a criminal defense attorney, with a reputation for being ruthless, brilliant, and intimidatingly quiet. We had drifted apart years ago after a clash over his methods. I found him too cold. He found me too sentimental. We spoke maybe once a year on our father's birthday. My hand shook slightly. This was not asking for family comfort. This was calling in a tactical airstrike. I took a deep, steadying breath and dialed. It rang 4 times. "Nate Rhodes." His voice was exactly as I remembered, deep calm, devoid of unnecessary warmth. "Nate, it's Flora." A pause. "Flora, this is unexpected. Is everything all right?" And I told him. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I laid out the facts in the same clear, cold detail he would use in a courtroom. The push, the water, the laughter, the dismissal, the utter failure of her husband. When I finished, the silence on the line was profound, heavier than any outburst. I heard him take a slow breath. "Email me the address of that house, the full names of everyone involved. Gerald, Beatrice, Trent, David. Write down everything you just told me, every word you remember, and send it. Do not contact them again. Do not respond if they reach out. Make sure Amelia rests. Is she under a doctor's care for potential hypothermia? Not yet, but I will take her first thing tomorrow, I said. Good, I'll call you back. And he was gone. The line went dead. For the first time since seeing Amelia fall, I felt a sliver of something other than despair. It was the faint, sharp glint of a drawn blade. Nate called back the next afternoon. His voice was all business. I've done some preliminary checking. The Kensington family money is in private equity and real estate. Gerald is very sensitive about reputation. A public scandal, especially one involving potential criminal behavior by his heir, would be problematic. He paused. Trent's actions could be argued as assault in the third degree, or, at the very least, reckless endangerment. The fact that the others present, including the victim's husband, did nothing to help, and in fact verbally minimized the danger, creates a powerful narrative of negligence and emotional abuse. It strengthens a civil case immensely. A civil case, I asked. We're not going to court Flora, he said, and I could almost hear the ghost of a smile in his voice. Not if I can help it. Courts are messy and public. We're going to make them an offer they will be too afraid to refuse. I am acting as Amelia's legal counsel from this moment. You will refer all communication to me. He drafted a letter. It wasn't long or filled with angry legalese. It was a masterpiece of quiet threat. It stated the facts of the incident on December 23rd, named the witnesses, described Amelia's physical and acute psychological distress, and listed the potential criminal charges and civil liabilities. It was addressed to Gerald Kensington at his business office. The final line read, "We believe a swift private resolution is in the best interest of all parties, particularly those with significant public and business profiles. Please have your counsel contact me by 5 p.m. tomorrow to discuss terms." The letter went out. The silence from their end was deafening for 24 hours. Then Amelia's phone blew up, David calling from a new number, his voice panicked. "Amelia, baby, please. You have to call off your lawyer. My dad is furious. This is insane. It was a misunderstanding. We're family." Amelia, sitting beside me on the sofa, her face pale but clear, listened. She looked at me, then at the phone. She didn't cry. Her voice was quiet, but rock steady. "My lawyer is Nathaniel Rhodes. Talk to him, David." And she hung up. The strength in that simple sentence made my heart swell. The meeting happened in Nate's downtown office, all dark wood and silent efficiency. We didn't attend. Nate recounted it later, his tone dry and precise. Gerald came with his lawyer. He tried bluster at first, called it a regrettable accident during horseplay. I simply repeated the facts using words like premeditated shove, submersion in near-freezing water, failure to render aid, and willful infliction of emotional distress. I showed him photos of the doc I'd had an investigator take. I mentioned the local news might find the story of a wealthy family's Christmas prank on a schoolteacher quite compelling. He deflated like a punctured balloon. The settlement wasn't about a giant dramatic cash payout. Nate was smarter than that. It was about consequence and humiliation. First, a fund was to be established to cover all of Amelia's therapy costs for as long as needed. Second, a substantial anonymous donation was to be made to the Teachers Resource Fund at Amelia's school district, a charity she loved that the Kensingtons would find beneath them. Third, Trent was required to complete a full course of anger management and behavioral accountability seminars with completion reports sent to Nate. Finally, and this was Nate's particular touch, each member of the Kensington family. Gerald, Beatrice, Trent, and David was to write and sign a letter of apology to Amelia. Not a vague, sorry if you were offended note. A specific, detailed apology acknowledging their actions and their harm to be approved by Nate before delivery. David, under pressure from his father, tried one last gambit. He sent Amelia an ultimatum drop All this legal nonsense, come back, forgive and forget, or he would file for divorce. Amelia read the message, her hand steady. She showed it to me, then to Nate. "What should I do?" she asked. Nate looked at her. "That is not a legal question, Amelia. That is a personal one. But from my perspective, he is giving you a gift. He is showing you his priority is, and always was, his family of origin, not the family he vowed to create with you." Amelia nodded slowly. She picked up her phone and typed a single sentence in reply. "Have your lawyer contact mine regarding the divorce. I choose me." But before everything was finalized, I asked Nate for one more thing. A brief supervised video call with Gerald and Beatrice. He arranged it. When their faces appeared on the screen, tense, wary, older looking than I remembered, I spoke calmly. "You laughed while my daughter was in danger. I want you to see her face now. Not as your victim, but as a woman rebuilding her life without any of you in it." I angled the camera. Amelia stood there, still slender, still bearing the shadows of the trauma, but with her chin up and a new unbreakable light in her eyes. She didn't speak. She just looked at them. The color drained from Beatrice's face. Gerald looked away first. I ended the call. It was the only revenge I wanted, and it was complete. Healing, I have learned, is not a straight line. It is a slow, deliberate walk through a landscape that is forever changed. Amelia began therapy. She returned to her classroom after the winter break, and her students, with their unerring instinct, seemed to cling to her a little more. She used the news of the anonymous donation to her school fund to start a small special project for children experiencing anxiety. She told me it helped her giving back to the place that was truly her home. My relationship with Nate evolved. We are not suddenly best friends, but we have a deep, abiding respect. I see now that his coldness is not a lack of heart, but a fierce concentration of principle. He protects what he considers his own with the precision of a surgeon and the finality of a judge. We have dinner once a month now. He asks about Amelia. I listen to his dry observations on the world. It is a different kind of family, one built on chosen loyalty, not just blood or obligation. The lesson I carry from that frozen lake is not about vengeance being sweet. It is something quieter, more powerful. Sometimes the strongest weapon you have is not your own scream, but the terrifying silence of the truth when it is spoken by someone who knows how to make others listen. I learned that loving your child sometimes means becoming shrewd, strategic, and unflinching. And I learned that toxic relationships, no matter how beautifully wrapped in the guise of family or status, are never worth keeping. They will always try to pull you under. Now, as I sit in my own garden, watching Amelia carefully tend to her new rose bushes, I feel a profound peace. The frost has melted. The ground is solid. I am no longer afraid for my girl. She found her own footing on the other side of the ice. And I discovered that even at 54 you can find unexpected allies, and that a mother's intuition, it is always, always worth listening to from the very first whisper. If this story resonated with you, if you have ever had to make the difficult choice to walk away from a situation or stand up for someone you love, I would be honored to hear about it in the comments below. Your experiences are what connect us. If you found strength in Amelia's journey, please like this video. It lets me know these stories matter. And if you want to join me for more conversations about family resilience and the quiet power of starting over, please hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for listening, for being part of this community. And remember, no matter the season, your own ground is waiting for you to stand firm upon it. Be well.